session, we are honored to showcase a multi-awarded teacher, a winner of the Global Teacher Award 2020, who has been teaching computer science for 30 years at the Galilei Costa Institute in Lecce, Italy, and has always allocated 40–50% of his teaching hours to unconventional subjects such as innovation, creativity, and change to encourage its students to create and manage innovative micro businesses, the so-called startups. He is Professor Daniele Manni, representing Italy. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm speaking from Italy, and here it's morning time, 10:30 in the morning. So good day to everyone, and it's very nice to be here. And I am so honored to be here. Yes, thank you for the great presentation, and let's go straight into the theme that we want to talk about today. I love to talk about student-centered education. I think that every one of us has listened about student-centered education. I have a personal idea of how we can concentrate our school to face every single student. And I'll try to explain this model. Here in Italy, we are two schools that are really experimenting it daily. And it's my school, Istituto Galilei Costa in Lecce, which is a high school, and a middle school called Ascanio Grandi, always in the city of Lecce. So my idea of student-centered education is based on two great areas. The first area, I'll call it a scale of interest in single subjects. The second area stimulates and interest in students. But let's face the single subject. Okay, when I talk about scale of interest in single subjects, I mean that when I enter a new classroom, I have a new class, and this class is roughly separated in three kind of students. I have unmotivated students. I teach computer science and I teach entrepreneurship, and I have a certain number of students who are unmotivated. Then I have a group of students who are attentive, and another group of students who are interested in my subject, in computer science and entrepreneurship. So I try to concentrate especially on those students who are unmotivated, and I experiment techniques to try to move these students from the unmotivated area to the attentive area. I try to do this, creating empathy bridges with the students. I talk to them. I ask them, why are you not interested in computer science? Is it difficult for you? How can I help you? What can I change to make you be more interested in the subject? And in these different attentives, these different experiments, I try to use the peer-to-peer education. I get maybe a good student, an interested student, and I make him sit beside the unmotivated student and try to help him. Or even I try to explain things in another way. Or I try to invite in the classroom another person who can talk to the class in a different way from how I speak to the class. So the idea of this scale of interest is to make every single student grow in the scale. Get the students who are unmotivated and try to apply so many different techniques to make them pass to the attentive grade. The same thing for the attentive. All the students who are attentive, I try to make them pass to the interested grade, to make them get more interested into the subject. The new part of this scale is that I introduce a fourth grade, which is the expert grade. So all the students that I have that are already interested in my subject, in computer science, I try to make them grow and become experts. This doesn't mean that I have to have special lessons with them, because if they are interested in the subject, I only have to tell them what they can study, what they can look for, subjects and arguments that they can go and search for on the net. They will find tutorials. They will find a whole lot of stuff on the net. So I push them a little bit harder, because it's right for me that even who is good, who is very well in some subject, must have the possibility to go farther and faster than his companions. And what I've simply told in my subject is what we are trying to do in every subject here at school. So every teacher gets a sort of a chart of his class and works pretty hard on all the students that declare themselves unmotivated, trying to find solutions to make them become attentive. The other area, macro area, is to let children grow in their passions and in their talents. What do we do for this? We invite in the class so many professionals, so many experts who work in so many different worlds. Artists, we can ask for people who work in the journalism world. So we invite journalists, we invite artists, we invite musicians, we invite technicians of new technologies, talking about drones, talking about 3D printers, talking about metaverse, talking about virtual reality, augmented reality, talking about artificial intelligence. And we invite people who work in so many fields, because it is very important to us that our students and our children discover that the world is full of so many kinds of jobs.
I might be late tomorrow morning.
So the first step is the one.
Thank you so much, sir.
So the first step is the one to invite persons in the class. The second step is to notice, to pay attention on when our students' eyes start to lighten up. Because if I invite a journalist and she or he starts talking about his and her profession, and I notice that there are 1, 2, or 3 students that are very interested in what she is talking about or he is talking about, I have to pay attention. I have to notice this, because the third step is to let these students grow in that specific passion. I'll make again an example. If I invite in the class someone who wants to talk about the printing, the 3D printing, 3D projects, 3D design, and 3D printing. And meanwhile, he talks to the class and explains them what he does, how he does it, and maybe shows them what he does. And I noticed that there are 1, 2, or 3 students who are particularly interested in what he is doing. So I have a sort of a lamp turning on and say, okay, these students are interested. So I can get in touch with other professionals or the same professional who came in the class and ask him and ask them if they can follow up with those students, help them grow in that field. Same thing may happen for a musician. If I invite a famous singer, rap singer in the class, and I notice that there is one single guy who is very interested in what that singer is talking about, I'll ask the singer if he may follow up that student and help him grow in that particular field. Maybe after a month or 5 months or 1 year, the student will get, how can I say it, sick about it. You know, he doesn't like it anymore. We haven't lost time. We have worked on one field and the student has discovered that it seemed as a great interest, but he found out that it wasn't so. So we haven't lost time. We still continue working and ask that student, what else does he like? So going back to what I've said till now, my idea of student-centered education works in 2 ways. The first way is concerning single subjects. In every subject, we try to let the students grow in a scale of 4 states. The first state is the, how I called it, the unmotivated. Unmotivated students that seem to come to school, but they are not absolutely interested in what we're talking about. And we try to make these students grow to the attentive state. The same thing we do with the students who are in the attentive state. We try to make them grow in the interested state. And the new part of it, we introduce a new state that I call the expert state, trying to get students who are very interested in the subject to grow and become experts, giving them input and telling them, go ahead, go and study this stuff, grow in this, try this, and you can go faster and farther than your companions because you love this subject. And this can work in every single subject. The second line doesn't concern the normal subjects in school, but it concerns interests in the world outside the school. How we do it? We invite experts and professionals in class, let them talk about themselves, let them talk about their dreams, what they've done in their life, let them talk about their failures, because failure is very important to understand that it's part of the growth, and it's not something so horrible. Letting people talking about their world and noticing in the students if they have a particular interest in that single field. Because if they have a particular interest, my idea of school is that the school has to help them grow in that interest. And it may be any kind of interest. So this is explained in a few words what is the student-centered idea of education. How I do it in my particular way is soon said. I love entrepreneurship. I am, or better to say, I was an entrepreneur. Immediately after my graduation in computer science, I didn't want to go and work for great companies. And I decided to become an entrepreneur. So I put up my societies. In those years, and I'm talking about the middle 80s and late 80s, we didn't have this word startups. We didn't build startups. We made little companies with companions and friends, And since 1999, I have been an entrepreneur and in the last years, even a teacher in the morning. I teached in the morning and brought up my companies in the afternoon. Then in 1999, I decided to give a great change to my life. And I quitted to be an entrepreneur. And I started bringing my idea, my mentality, my mindset of an entrepreneur in class to my students. To tell the truth, at the beginning, I was really hopeful to transform 24 students in one class in 24 different entrepreneurs. But this didn't work. It didn't work that way. And I noticed after 2 or 3 years that only maybe a 10% of my students became entrepreneurs. 5–10%. So I started thinking to myself and saying, maybe I'm making great mistakes in doing this. Maybe I'm taking away time to computer science from my students and giving them this entrepreneurial mindset. And maybe it's an error, maybe it's a mistake. But then something magical happened. After 3 or 4 years that I was in this path, many of my students came back to school to say hi, to tell me what they were doing. And all of them, 100% of the students, when they came, they always were thankful for what they've done during those years in the high school. And I was kind of surprised because I said, well, why? You became a doctor. You started working with your dad. You've chosen to go in the military service to become a policeman. And then I understood, after all their answers, that this path in the entrepreneurial mindset gave all my students so many soft skills, those soft skills that now are so famous. Asking them what were the differences that they felt matching with their companions in university or at work. They told me, and they made me discover, that they had become very good problem solvers. They were very good in working in teams. They had become resilient. They had discovered and learned that failure was not something awful, but it was something important to happen, and that mistakes and failure were very good to grow faster. And the most important of these soft skills, I think it was that my students had more, how can I say it? Sorry for my English, that is not perfect. They were self-confident. They were self-confident in themselves and in what they were able to do. Because in their path, and now I'll explain you what they do at school, they discovered that you can have an idea in school, write this idea on the blackboard, and then transform this idea in something real. Make an example. We decide to design a new sweater. We got the logo, we start printing it, and we start selling them. And we create a little business on selling sweaters. So the single student discovers that we started writing down an idea on a blackboard, and then this idea has become a business, has become clients, has become people thanking them for what they're doing. So they get really self-confident. And this is the very, very important thing. I promised that I would tell you what I do in school every single day and every single year. We are now in the end of October. We started school here in Italy about 1 month ago, and I entered for the first time in 3 new classes. In these classes, the first day, the first hour, I simply said my name, told them what I do, told them what kind of school they had. The second hour, we started saying, what can we create? What can we invent? A new service, a new product, a new application, something new to put on the market and try to enter the market. The thing that I must underline is that I don't teach entrepreneurship. I never have lessons telling my students what entrepreneurship is, who is an entrepreneur, but we act as entrepreneurs. We have ideas. After the time we need to choose which could be the right idea, the genius idea that all students are fond of, we start to act as entrepreneurs. If we decide, as an example, to start selling olive oil, we have precious olive oil in this part of Italy, and we want to sell it in a different way. We have this idea. The moment later, we start working on that idea. We start thinking of a name of our idea, a logo of our idea. We start having surveys in the market, asking people what they think about the idea and what they think about our new way of selling olive oil. And students start working on this. They have 4 or 5 years to grow in this area, to grow with their idea, to grow in the real market. I can tell about some ideas, something that my students created. There is one that I'm very fond of. Let me tell you something first. Here in Italy, everyone knows how Italy is made. You know, it's kind of a form and the shape of a boot. I live in the point of the heel of the boot, meaning down south. And here in Italy, as often happens in different nations, there is a richer part and a poorer part. There is a part where industries and great companies work hard, and a part where they work a little bit less harder. And Italy is divided in north and south. The northern part is the part very active, where businesses grow very fast and very well. The southern part is a little bit more poor, and many of our students and young people have to go away to find a job in northern Italy or even in other nations, in other countries. I work down in south, as I said, at the point of the heel of the Italian boot. And there is an idea that I'm very fond of my students. He was a single student. He finished his school, his 5 years of high school, and done so many little jobs for 4 or 5 years. And then he remembered a teacher of his who used to tell him, if you can't find a job that you really like, create your own. And this is what he done. He created a little e-commerce where he started selling on the web some air conditioners, because the last job he had, he got in touch with a good company of air conditioners, and he had a certain number of these conditioners that he could sell at a good price. He started in that way 8 years ago. Today, Alberto, this is his name, has a company which gains about 60 million euros per year. He has 200 young people working in his company, and 200 young people who love him, love their job and love him, because he has become a great entrepreneur with a great E starting, because he manages to make his the people working for him feel as in a big family, and they all love their work, they love what they're doing, and they are all projected in growing even more. And this is a great business idea. There is another idea that I am very fond of, another startup that started in 2016. There was a class, 14-year-old, first year in high school, who for the first time decided not to create a business idea, but to create a social idea. And what happened is that once in January of their first year, we had some news coming from a city in Italy where a 12-year-old girl tried to get suicide because of bullying in her class. So my students started talking about this and saying how horrible this practice was. And they asked me, can't we make a startup out of bullying? And the first thing I said, but guys, okay, but you can't get money from this. You know, you can't get money. And they said, it's no problem. No problem. We'd love to do this. And that's what they've done. They created a movement, a youth movement called Ma Basta. That in Italian means quit it, stop it, Ma Basta. And for 5 years, till 2021, they worked on this idea at school, and it grew pretty good. They met the Pope, they met the Italian president, they met 4 different ministers in education. And as soon as they finished, that they got graduated, one single student, Mirko Cazzato is his name, was the single student who decided to take up this startup after graduation. All the other companions of his class decided other futures, other ways. They went to university. Some of them are working for their family. But Mirko decided to continue this fight with the startup Ma Basta. And now he is working all day long. It's 2 years that he is working in this. And the great news is that the movement has been growing and growing and growing, and is the startup who has got more money than any other one. So an idea coming up with not gaining money has become the one who is gaining more money than the others, because Mirko is so good at his job that he is collecting funding from so many ways, from crowdfunding, from asking big banks, big insurance companies, asking the minister to give them money, asking public and private money to help him go in schools and talk about their movement and adopt what their idea, what their solution is to bullying. They don't only talk about bullying. They created a solution, a model, and it's called the Ma Basta model. And so he collects this money, and in the last year, he has been in 1,500 different schools. Working with his team, he has 30 students aged 14, 17, who are the animators of this movement, who go in schools and talk about to their talking to their peer friends, talking about how important it is to face this problem and how they can solve the problem adopting this model. And these are 2 examples that I gave you that I'm very fond of. One is the business idea, the other is a social idea. And now we have, in this moment, about 10 different startups. 7 of them are business startups. 3 of them are social startups. And we have students young people aged from 14 to 18-year-olds that are entrepreneurs. Maybe when they graduate, as I said before, they will not continue. They will not do their job as an entrepreneur. They will choose any other way, any other path to grow up with their job. But the most important part of this is that they manage at school to understand how life goes. The entrepreneurial mindset is so important to me. And I think that a lot of people around the world are discovering how important is the mindset. It's not so important to become an entrepreneur. That isn't bad. Let's tell the truth. It's not bad. But that isn't the important part of it. The really important part of it is to get that mindset, to be a person who is always projected in solving problems, to be a person who is thinking in a creative way, thinking that he is a great potential to make a change making. This is one of my special efforts in talking to students, telling them that every single one of them has a great potential. I don't know how it goes in the rest of the world, but here in Italy, the Italian school system doesn't tell children this. They only teach subjects and ask for tests to discover if they understood or not what they're teaching. I have a different vision of school. I have a vision of the school where we have to let our children know that they have great potential, but not only tell them, we have to show them with the examples. We have to make them practice their potential. Let them understand that they can be protagonists in life and not only users. I have some examples to make you understand a little bit better what I'm talking about. I often go in middle-aged schools, and they are students about aged from 10, 11 years old. And when I talk about what we do in school, I ask them, what are your passions? What do you like? And they think, at the first, they think I'm talking about school subjects. And I tell them, no, I'm not talking about school subjects. What you do after school. And someone says, well, I love to play on video games. Okay. Do you have fun? Yes, I have a lot of fun. I love video games. Okay, so cool. But what is cooler? To play at a video game or to create one where others play? And then you see their faces change completely because they say, wow, no, it's really cooler to design a new game and let people play in it. Is this possible? And you have to answer them and say, yes, it's possible. Someone does it. Why can't you do it? Okay, you love influencers on the social networks, and it's cool. Is it cooler to follow an influencer, or is it cooler to create contents and let people follow you? This is the difference for me between users and protagonists. Our students have to know that they may be protagonists in their life. They can be persons who can make the changing and not only adapt themselves to the changings. So this is what I wanted to tell you. I know that I'm 15 minutes short now. I'd love to reserve the rest of the time if you have any questions, if you have any curiosities, and we can talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you very, very much. You do still have 30 minutes left. Thank you. Thank God for that. Thank you for sharing your amazing session on entrepreneurship education by creating and implementing real startups. And student-centered education is possible And it is possible through a multitude of approaches. And thank you for sharing that with us. And we do have a couple of queries from our attendees. So Vaibhav Nath shares, is it possible that students unmotivated in one subject might be an expert in another subject and vice versa? Do you share what stage the students is into the students as well? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Not only it's possible, it often happens. That's why all our teachers work on the class as a team. So all of our teachers in one class, we talk to each other and we tell how things are. And we join themselves online one time per month and let our colleagues know what we are doing. And we discover that my student who is very interested in computer science is absolutely unmotivated in history or unmotivated in Italian language. And then we talk to each other and we we try to construct, to build something that may help everyone in this. I know that it's simpler to go on as we have always done, not talking about single students, but having single teachers in a class bringing out their own path. In this way, we interact a lot and we notice every single day that they are beautiful parts in this. Because when I discover that my very good student in computer science doesn't like history, I can give a hand. I can help him because maybe he has an image of me, his computer science teacher, as a great guy. And this great guy in that moment can help him understand how important history is, how important math is, and how important and how it is wonderful to know so many things. One thing that we usually say to our students, I have fun telling them and saying, okay, you have in this moment about 10 or 12 different teachers. Just think about it. How would you feel if you knew everything that your teachers know? You have 12 different teachers. Every one of them is an expert in his subject. What if you knew everything that they know? And they start thinking of this. And the answer is, I'd be a genius. Okay, and that's wonderful. So you have to understand that school isn't a place where we make you learn, that you have to learn for us. You have to understand that school is an extraordinary opportunity for your growth. You have to squeeze your teachers. You have to get all the best out of them. Because in my case, in these 5 years of high school, if you do this, you'll come out after these 5 years as a person completely different, absolutely richer, maybe not in money. Some of them even in money, the guys that put up good startups. But the most important of it is that you are richer inside because you have learned culture. You have learned so many things of life that you can start your personal future path in a more intelligent way, in a more smarter way, and in a more prepared way.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you, Vaibhav, for your query. And we have another question from Professor Rodel. He questions, learner-centric approach is, of course, very significant, but at the same time, there is a dilemma. Since the whole classroom is an arena of diverse and oftentimes contradictory positions in terms of gender, social class, physical ability, backbencher versus frontbenchers, if full agency is given to them, is not it really difficult to accomplish and bring it to the logical conclusion?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Because I imagine that when I speak about what we do, it sounds kind of simple, but we know, teachers know that it's not simple, because classes are very complicated sometimes, and it is a great work. But this doesn't mean that we have to give up. We have never have to give up. We have to do our attempts. We have to try everything that is in our power to make the difference. Many times, as you said in the beginning, I have gained a certain number of awards, you know, and I thank you. I thank everybody that talks about them, but I'm not so fond of the awards. Instead of how I am angry of my failures, because on one side, there is a teacher who has awards in doing his kind of school, but on the other side, I know that I have a lot of students that I haven't managed to make that change. And these are all my failures. And I get mad about that. And so every time people says, wow, what a great job you're doing, 1 second later, I think, yeah, but it's not enough. Because maybe I helped some students, but there are so many of them that I didn't manage to help, that I failed. And I'm so sorry about that. But instead of stopping and saying to myself that I'm wrong, I have to go on. I have to go on trying, go on helping, doing all my best to do it. I know that at the end of the year, I will have a great success for every student. I know that, but it doesn't have to be a reason to make me stop. It is important for all of us teachers to understand that even a single little help, one single student that goes from the stage of unmotivated to the stage of attentive will be a great success. Because if we didn't do that, we would have remained for 5 years in that stage. And it's not good for that. That's why we have to continuously help single students where it's possible. It's not easy to have a class made of 25, 30 students and treat them all as single persons. It's not easy. So our first job is to make maybe little groups, you know, work on little groups. If I can roughly create 5 different groups, all work to the 5 different groups that is different from 30 single persons. And then we all know that in our classes, we have always that single student who has more problems, that single student who has more difficulties in social, in getting together with other friends, in getting together with the school, in getting together with the subjects, in getting together with the teachers. Well, those are the students that deserve a special attention. I think that our real job is to help them. I always say that good students, it's easy to teach to good students. It's very easy. They pay attention during the lessons. They study at home. Our real role is to help those who are not so good, who for a reason or another are unmotivated, and try to understand why they are unmotivated and discover, because you will never find it written in any book for every single student how to make him become motivated. It's up to us. It's up to our experiments. It's up to our testing things. And something will work for student A and will not work for student B. It's up to us to discover the way we can help every single of them.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much. We have Alexander from Ghana questioning. Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much for your insightful talk on student-centered learning and its approach. I'm very much interested in your presentation. My question is, how does school curriculum play a central role in student-centered learning globally and or worldwide?
This is more difficult. This is more difficult because both on my ideas of entrepreneurial education and in my ideas of student-centered education, I noticed that I work bottom up. We start from the bottom. We start from our single classes. And here in Italy, it's very difficult to make this become a system. It is just difficult to make all my school work in this way. So believe me that it isn't absolutely easy. We are trying to push this as most as possible. We started with the student-centered learning. We started about 3 or 4 years ago. And now maybe less than half the classes are brought up in this way. But I'm hopeful that in the next years, thing will start growing. And it would be a good success to have the whole school doing it. Then if we manage to make a second school, a third school do it, it will be a great success. But everyone can understand that 2 schools or 10 schools or 100 schools or 1,000 schools is not enough for the whole nation, and absolutely for not the whole globe. Then another thing that I want to say is that this is only my personal vision. I know of so many other teachers, and you have so many of them in these days that have other visions, and they are all wonderful. So maybe of all these visions, we have to choose maybe the one that is more comfortable, the one where we feel more comfortable in, and start doing something. And if we are already doing something, accelerate, give more passion in it, and try to do all the best without thinking that maybe it's useless because the system will never change. It's more useful to think that I'm changing maybe something in my world, and that is important. Maybe things may change even in a bigger way and in a systematic way.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We have so many queries and love for your session from all over the world. And we have Omushugu, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Omushugu John from Uganda. He says, I'm from Uganda and would like to find out if the same idea is present in our country. And if yes, how can I get to know more about it? If no, can the same idea be initiated here in Uganda too? I'm compelled to know more about countries of operation. It's true, individual differences would be cutted. If this class with slow, medium, fast learners together with special needs, how can I plan for them, all of them, so that at the end of the lesson, all individual needs are catered for?
Okay, meanwhile, I was listening. I'm writing in the chat my email. So everyone who is interested in what we're talking about, they are welcome to write, and I'll promise that I will respond. Maybe not the same day, maybe not in 2 days, but I'll try to answer to everyone. If I understood well, it's this problem, the big problem about how we can take out individual growings, you know? And as I said before, it's not easy. It's not easy, absolutely. Maybe, I don't know if I can talk worldwide, but here in Italy, I always tell my colleagues, always tell the teachers when I happen to talk to them in congresses and conferences, that they have to feel as professionals. They have to enter their class and understand that they are the masters in that class in that hour. They do not have to think that the principal has an importance, the school system has an importance. They have to understand, and please do it, that their world, they are the masters of their world with their students. if they can't manage to put up projects and designing things very important with the collaboration of everyone, it doesn't matter. Work on yourself. Work on with your students. Concentrate yourself on your students. All the rest of the world will come in a second moment. If you are doing good, and you are doing good, because the moment you decide to experiment something, even if it fails, you're doing good. So if you do good for your students, for your class, things will come out with time. You concentrate on your class. Concentrate on your students. Don't think about all the rest that goes around you. It will come in a second moment. The most important thing are your single students. I don't know if I'm correctly answering the questions, but I prefer to answer with my ideas of how I feel school, and let the particular answers come by email, where I can read the answer in the question in a good way, in a correct way, and then give single answers.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I do have one question for you as well. To make learners start-uppers, schools learners may need more resources. How can schools learners materialize this in normal schools?
So let me understand. Are you talking about physical resources?
Yes.
How school can get physical resources?
Yes.
Okay. Once again, I can't answer for the whole world because I don't know how it works in other countries. In our country, it isn't easy to gain these resources. But my experience is that if you start knocking the right way to the right persons outside the school, maybe at 10 doors that you knock, one door will open and will make you start a new way in going into school. We have often the perception that outside school are not interested in schools, are not interested in learning. Instead, my experience is completely different. My experience is that every single time I knocked at a company, I knocked, especially in private areas, not in public areas. In public areas here in Italy, it's very difficult to be heard and to be helped. But in private areas, I repeat, when I knock at 10 different doors, one door will open. And that little door that opens will give a little start in something. And if I ask that company if he can help me by any kind of resource, that may be a technical resource or maybe a professional resource for someone to come in school and help us do something, I always had a yes as an answer. And I notice that this surprises everyone, because I see so many colleagues that ask me, how did you manage to do that? How did you get that money to do that? And I answer, I only asked. I only asked. I didn't do nothing special. Because many of us have this idea that school is closed. It doesn't have to be closed. It has to be open. And I always say that the school must knock at life and the rest of life must knock at schools. Companies should go in schools and ask teachers and principals, may I help you in some way? Is there some way that I can give a little help to your students? Buying you resources or coming and let my people come in schools and talk about what could be a potential of their life. So that communication between schools and outside schools should be open bridges all over the place.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much. We have so many questions pouring in for you, and you only have almost 7 minutes. We have Teresa Boki from Indonesia. She asks, what about the perspective of the parents about entrepreneurial mindset?
Good question. A very good question. Parents love it. The first years, they were shocked when their students when their children went home and tell them, we are creating a company, we are creating a startup. The parents were very shocked. But then when they noticed that their children were very lighten up about this, well, they were very surprised about it, and they were very charged in doing this, they started understanding that school may be done in a different way. Now, personally, I have so many years at my background in teaching and doing entrepreneurship by creating startups, that the most part of our students in our school come especially for this. So parents ask their children to come to the school because they understand how important it is to have this kind of mindset. So now it's a little bit easier for us because, as I said, 80 or 90% of students that decide to choose our school, they choose it because we make entrepreneurial mindset grow.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much. We have 5 minutes left, and we have Jyoti Gupta, and I'm assuming she's from India. And she's asking, is there a standard plan for intervention plan, personalized program, individual learning plan for those who need learning support?
Well, this is a good question too. And I know that everyone is looking for something, a sort of a guide, to follow up. And this is a great fault of mine because I am very instinctive and I never sat down to write, the steps that one could do for it. Maybe it will be easier to interact singularly and give some little advice and follow up what we can do. Because I understand that it is a great fault of mine that I haven't ever written down or created a website, maybe, where I could explain single thing we do. Maybe this conference is the right time and the right place to decide to do it. So maybe I will decide from tomorrow on to start putting black on white and publish something on a website.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much for answering all the wonderful queries. Thank you so much, everyone. So grateful.
Anusha, before I forget, is there some way you can collect all the comments in the chat? And
I will.
Please, because I know that I will lose them as soon as I get out.
I will.
Please, if you can send me all the considerations, I'll try to answer to everyone.
Sure, I will. And you may also connect Daniel through educationinfluence.com via his profile. You may direct message him, email him, collaborate with him. Anything is possible here. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank all of you, and have a very beautiful and nice future. You and all your students. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Daniel.
Bye.